It's good to be back. Sorry to keep you waiting. I thought we were going to be on time this morning, but I forgot how to shave. I'm an effing moron, so I cut myself. I haven't shaved in a week, and I cut myself. But it's good to be back. Thank you for being here. The new Congress meets for the first time today at noon and will vote for a new speaker today. Speaker Mike Johnson can only afford one GOP defector, maybe two. It depends on who shows up today. Will Speaker Mike Johnson's 14 months reign come to an end as the 119th Congress is seated? Will they even be seated? Because no Speaker of the House, no certification on January 6th of the winner of the presidential election. No certification, no president. Let me put it this way. Mike Johnson spent all of last week at Mar-a-Lago on his knees, and he wasn't praying. I'm hoping he was just begging, but you never know with these sick and demented mental defectives. The new year began with Donald Trump officially endorsing Mike Johnson for Speaker. Nobody knew. A lot of people thought Trump was done with Mike Johnson. Again, no certification of the election on January 6th without a Speaker of the House. 2 years ago, when they were beginning the 118th Congress, the House of Representatives voted 3 times for a Speaker on January 3rd. Kevin McCarthy couldn't get there on January 3rd, so they adjourned, and over several days and 15 ballots, Kevin McCarthy finally became Speaker. That was back when I knew how to shave. He became Speaker in January of 2023, only to be forced to vacate his seat in October of that same year. Now, when McCarthy was tossed to the curb in October of 2023, we went 20 days without a speaker. Remember, this was October of 2023. Steve Scalise, the majority leader, tried to be speaker. That failed. Then Jim Jordan, the neo-Nazi wrestling coach, he tried to become speaker, and that failed. We didn't have a speaker for 20 days. So what does this mean? Again, without a speaker, you can't swear in the new members of the House of Representatives. It means you can't do anything, let alone certify the presidential election on January 6th. Does this mean, theoretically, Trump's inauguration could have to be delayed? Well, I don't think so. You might remember when Kevin McCarthy was vacated, rules dictated that he had to have already secretly appointed a Speaker pro tem who would be given the gavel and serve only as Speaker pro tem. His only responsibility would be to conduct elections for a new Speaker. That man, if you want to call him a man, was North Carolina's Patrick McHenry and his bow tie. So, I'm not a parliamentarian, but I'm still bleeding. I give everything to my audience. Blood. Okay, so I'm assuming Mike Johnson has written down who he has chosen to serve as Speaker pro tem. Maybe. I'm not a parliamentarian. Maybe the Speaker only gets to choose the Speaker pro tem when Congress is already in session and the Speaker is being replaced. Maybe the rule is with a brand new House of Representatives, that new House has to elect a Speaker pro tem if they can't elect a Speaker. But how could they vote? How can members of the House vote if they haven't been sworn in yet? You need a new Speaker to swear in the new members of the House of Representatives. So I'm going to assume we will have a Speaker pro tem. We won't. I don't know what's going to happen, but I'm going to assume if we don't get a speaker, we will have a Speaker pro tem who will step in to conduct an election for Speaker, the same way Patrick McHenry did. And if this thing drags out past January 6th, I'm going to assume that somehow the new Speaker pro tem will be able to swear in new House members, but only because these are Republicans, only because there's a Republican president waiting to get certified, and these are Republicans in the House of Representatives. If this were the Democrats, if this were Trump still in the White House and Biden about to be sworn in and Democrats running the House but not being able to get it together, the Federalist Society would be filing for emergency relief in front of the Supreme Court to keep Trump as president past January 20th until the Democratic House of Representatives could get its act together. But I'm going to assume January 6th will happen with or without a speaker. The election will be certified because Democrats don't play that way. Trump is going to be there to give us spectacle, to distract from the oil companies, the health insurance companies, and Donald Trump and his buddies robbing us blind. This is all spectacle. It's exactly what his benefactors are paying him to do. But Trump needs to get inside the Oval Office. There's a carpet that needs soiling. He's warning Johnson, you got to get elected on the first ballot. And he's warning Republicans in the House, nobody else can win this other than Mike Johnson. It's also what he said 2 years ago about McCarthy, and that turned out terrific. Trump is reportedly working the phones, calling intransigent Republicans who say they can't bring themselves to vote for Mike Johnson. Trump is gently nudging them, and I got my hands on one of the phone calls. This is an actual phone call that Donald Trump made. I believe it was to Chip Roy. I'm not sure. Here, listen.
You like your wife, your kids, that nice face you got? It would be a shame if something were to happen to that nice face you got.
I mean, I think that's real. It sounds real. I mean, and it certainly looks like Donald Trump, and it's definitely something he would say. So I'm going to assume that was an actual phone call that Donald Trump made to Chip Roy. Remember, all it takes is just one, maybe two Republicans not to vote for Johnson. So I'm holding my infamous worst case scenario mug. I'm rubbing it real hard. Here's my prediction. Okay? Johnson is going to win on the first ballot today, and Trump will be certified on January 6th, and the Republicans will all live happily ever after. I'm rubbing my worst case scenario mug for bad luck. See, if I predict something, it doesn't come true, so that's my prediction. I should charge for this service. Like, if you're opening a business, you would pay me to predict it's going to fail. Okay, just one, maybe two defectors. That's all Mike Johnson can afford today. Our old friend Chip Roy from Texas has said there's no way he's voting for Johnson. Chip Roy doesn't intimidate easily. He's from a deep red district, and he's hard to primary. You can threaten all you want to primary him. He's beloved in Texas. He voted to certify for Biden 4 years ago. He's a principled Republican, whatever that means. And he insists he came to D.C. to shut it down. So why would he not throw himself on the gears of the machine today and not vote for Johnson? That's their philosophy. That's the Freedom Caucus's philosophy. Less government is good government. No government, even better. So Chip Roy, nobody knows what he's going to do. Congresswoman Victoria Spartz of Indiana. Nobody has any idea what this woman is thinking or saying. Originally, she wasn't running for re-election in 2024. Then she changed her mind. Now she got re-elected, but she's given up all her committee assignments. She said, I don't want to be on any committees, and nobody wants her on committees because she's the woman who corners you at a New Year's Eve party and starts talking, and you think, I'm going home. I don't want to be around people anymore. Andy Harris of Maryland is the new chair of the Freedom Caucus. He says he's not going to vote for Johnson. These are people who will look for any reason to bring government to a halt. No speaker. Fine by this guy. No speaker means Congress can't do any damage. They believe that. Paul Gosar, the neo-Nazi dentist from Arizona. Paul Gosar, dentist, and is just swimming in Nazis. His office is swimming. He's Dr. Christian Zell from Marathon Man. Is it safe? Is it safe? Remember the Nazi dentist from Marathon Man? That's who Paul Gosar is. Andy Biggs, also from Arizona. He was part of the Stop the Steal movement. And right after January 6th, get this, he begged Donald Trump for a pardon. Can you believe how old-fashioned that is? Thinking you could actually go to jail for participating in an insurrection. It was a different time. A simpler time. Then there's Kentucky Congressman Thomas Massie, another principled conservative. He's a graduate of MIT. I think he has a PhD from MIT. He's not afraid of Donald Trump or Mike Johnson. Asked if he was worried about getting primaried for not voting for Mike Johnson today. Massie said, quote, I don't know how to say this without cussing. If they thought I had no F's to give before, I definitely have no F's to give now. He doesn't give an F. He says, I don't give an F. He does not approve of Mike Johnson, which is why he teamed up with Marjorie Taylor Greene last May to lead a motion for Johnson to vacate the chair. Do you remember that? That vote failed, 359 to 43, but only because Democratic Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries ordered Democrats to vote for Johnson. Nothing got passed. No continuing resolution, no budget got passed in the 118th Congress without the Democrats helping out, which is why these Republicans are so angry with Mike Johnson. Marjorie Taylor Greene takes her orders from Donald Trump, but she's been marginalized. He no longer needs her. She introduced the motion to vacate the chair for Mike Johnson to vacate, even though Trump told her, don't do it. She went rogue. Greene has hinted that today she's going to vote for Elon Musk as speaker. Remember, the speaker can be anyone, and Mike Johnson, as well as Kevin McCarthy, proved that anyone can be speaker. Marjorie detests Johnson openly. She accuses him of making, quote, dirty swamp deals, keeping Republicans in the dark, putting legislation and budgets in front of us and saying, vote on this without consulting any of us. And of course, Marjorie loves her guns. This is a campaign photo of her with an assault weapon. That's how she got elected. Being photographed with her, not with her family, with her assault weapon. So she's not afraid of anybody. She's got her guns. You know, I'm not making this up. Sometimes I do Photoshop. This is not Photoshop, and this is not Photoshop. I swear to you. This is Marjorie's buddy in crime, MIT professor or MIT graduate, Thomas Massie's Christmas card from 3 years ago with his wife, his 2 daughters, and 3 sons gathered around the Christmas tree brandishing military-style assault rifles. You know what they say, the family that shoots together ends up with one of them turning a weapon on themselves. I think that's what they say. This was the Christmas card Massie sent to his constituents just days after a mass shooting in Michigan. And I'm not making this up. This is the God's honest truth. The caption said, Dear Santa, please bring ammo. That's Massie, Congress. And Santa did bring ammo. Here's Santa and some reindeer mounted on the Massie family's walls. And this was the next Christmas, a new Santa, new reindeer, more ammo. I think this is Marjorie Taylor Greene's breakfast nook, her dining room. This is more from Massie's home. A lot of dead Santas and reindeer. And that would be Elise Stefanik's dining room table, I believe, more from Massey. They love their guns, they get their ammo, and it's why we keep going through new Santas. I even think they got Rudolph in one of them. So, obviously, Mike Johnson is doing a balancing act, trying to serve two masters. There's Donald Trump, and, well, actually, he's serving one master, Donald Trump. Trump told him, do whatever it takes to win today. He said, you gotta win this. This is a picture of Mike Johnson trying to win over the Freedom Caucus. Late last night, he agreed to sit in the basement of the Capitol on a block of ice for 3 hours, trying to dislodge 3 cherry stems from his nasty place without crushing the cherries. That's what he agreed to do in return for the Freedom Caucus voting for him. I don't know. I believe some of that might have actually been photoshopped. I'm obligated to tell you if any photographs have been altered. I honestly don't know. I would tell you if that's been photoshopped. You want to hang on for 1 second. Let's ask Mike Johnson if it's working. Mike Johnson, is this photoshopped?
My butt hurts.
Okay. I don't know if you heard him, but maybe I shouldn't have come back. This is the mop-up for, January 3rd, 2025. January 3rd, 2025, not 2024, 2025. It's later than you think. So remember, if there's someone in your life, a mother, a sister, perhaps an ex-wife, a brother, another ex-wife, a cousin, another ex-wife, 3 mistresses, or perhaps even another ex-wife, remember, if you haven't called to tell them how much you loathe and despise them, do it now. The clock is ticking. It's later than you think. I do love this time of year because I have a brand new enemies list. Every year I make a list of all my enemies, and if you're on the list, congratulations, because you're in for a fantastic year. See, all I need to do is hate someone and they get everything they want. But I still continue to hate. Even though I know hating, having an enemies list works against me. I'm the eternal optimist. Every year I think, one of the 3,000 people on this year's enemies list will have something grave befall them. But every year, all 3,000 succeed beyond their wildest dreams. See, I'm like the 63 Mets. I know I'm going to lose, but I work the list every year for the hatred of the game, for the hatred of these people. Hope springs eternal. A new study shows the number of abortions performed in the United States has gone up since the Supreme Court overturned Roe 2.5 years ago. And Texas reports the number of abandoned babies in that state has doubled during the same time period. But when you think about it, with Republicans in charge of Texas, isn't everyone down there an abandoned baby? Texas Governor Greg Abbott, this is true, sent a condolence card to Rosalynn Carter, the widow of Jimmy Carter, President Jimmy Carter, who passed away at the age of 100. It was a nice gesture, sending Rosalynn Carter a condolence letter. The only problem is Rosalynn Carter died in November of 2023, which is probably why you haven't heard back from her, Greg Abbott, you perforated anus. Texas Governor Greg Abbott, protector of the unborn. The man has so much kitty litter between his ears, he has no idea when life and death begins. Donald Trump said he will attend Jimmy Carter's funeral next week in Washington, which means 2 ex-presidents will be lying in state. I came down hard on the word lying. God, I hate myself. Yes, as a developer, Trump worked closely with Jimmy Carter on Habitat for Humanity. Carter, as you know, created houses for the homeless, while Trump created homeless. So Carter had people to build houses for. Speaking of homeless, Rudy Giuliani was informed by the judge in that defamation lawsuit. He was informed that because Rudy has been so uncooperative in disclosing the deeds to his properties, so uncooperative in turning over necessary paperwork in order to compensate the two women who won a $150 million defamation judgment against him, because Rudy has been so reckless, the judge said you are perilously close to forfeiting your multi-million-dollar Florida condo. Rudy last year gave up his New York City condo, had to give it to those two women, the election workers. He's been fighting to stay in the Florida condo, but now it looks like he's going to lose that one as well. He asked the judge, what do you want me to be homeless? And I would have said, yes, I want you homeless. By the way, Trump still owes Rudy $3 million for all of Rudy's legal work he did trying to overturn the 2020 presidential election. Rudy never got paid. Something like $3 to $4 million in legal fees Trump stiffed him on. But Rudy hangs out at Mar-a-Lago drinking. And if the liquor is comped, you could say Trump has already paid him back double. I don't know, Rudy's bar bill at Mar-a-Lago versus Trump's legal bill? Pretty sure Trump's legal bill doesn't come close. Well, big New Year's bash at Mar-a-Lago. 1,000 people showed up. Not sure if Rudy attended. And I'm pretty sure Rudy's not sure if Rudy attended. Melania was there. She brought along her gas mask just in case Donald insisted on kissing her at the stroke of midnight. But you know who said he wasn't going to be there? Don Jr. He said, I'm not going, on his podcast. I watch his podcast. He said, New Year's is for amateurs. I'm staying home. I'm not talking to anybody on New Year's. It's for amateurs. I swear he said that. He said it's for amateurs. And then he showed up. He showed up with his new girlfriend. Here's his new girlfriend. He did this whole tirade against New Year's at Mar-a-Lago, how it's for amateurs. And, you know, his father called and said, get your amateur ass over here and bring the new one. That's Don's new squeeze. Is that what you call them these days? I don't know. Drug mule? I don't know what to call. That's Palm Beach socialite, Bettina Anderson. Meanwhile, Don's ex-fiancée, remember her? Kimberly Gargoyle. Remember Kimberly Gargoyle? She got paid something like $45,000 to deliver a 3-minute speech on the ellipse on January 6th, opening for Donald Trump's insurrection. Remember Kimberly Gargoyle? Don Jr. They were supposed to get married. Well, Kimberly Gargoyle, she's been dumped. But her consolation prize is she's the new ambassador to Greece. And here she is. What am I doing here? Here she is. This is an actual photo of Kimberly Gargoyle taking the red eye to Greece. She decided... I'm pretty sure this is an actual Photoshop. I'm pretty sure this is actual Photoshop of Kimberly Gargoyle taking the red eye to Greece, where she's going to be our new ambassador. She decided to do a stopover in Paris because she wanted to welcome the new year alone in the city of love. That is an actual photograph of that's been altered of Kimberly Gargoyle. The recently dumped Kimberly Gargoyle on her, who knows, she probably dumped Don Jr., right? Well, Trump women are all disposable. But E. Jean Carroll is not a Trump woman. She has self-respect, and a federal appeals court refused to overturn the verdict in her trial Bad news for Donald Trump. That civil trial. He's going to appeal it, but we're seeing the runway here on the E. Jean Carroll verdict. A federal appeals court refused to overturn the verdict in E. Jean Carroll's trial, where a jury ruled that Donald Trump had defamed her after the jury concluded, according to the judge in the case, that Donald Trump had raped her in common law parlance. This is what George Stephanopoulos handed $15 million over to Trump for, because he said a jury found him liable for rape. Even the judge said the jury found him liable for rape. The judge pointed out, for some reason, the state of New York says rape must involve, I don't want to get into it, but otherwise it's sexual assault. It's insane. You know what I'm talking about. So anyway, I don't want to go there. Trump has urged the Supreme Court to rule against a bill signed into law last year ordering TikTok to sell its company to a business not affiliated with the Chinese government. Now, Trump originally wanted to get rid of TikTok when he was president, but then he received massive donations from billionaire Jeff Yass, and Trump suddenly decided, you know what? I like TikTok. So I don't know what's going to happen. I actually read the bill. Supposedly, TikTok will be banned in the United States on January 19th unless it finds a suitor, a seller. Doesn't look like anybody's buying TikTok. The Supreme Court is going to hear an emergency appeal next week. Trump becomes president on the 20th. According to the bill, and I'm probably misreading it, Trump, as president, would be entitled to grant TikTok a 90-day grace period. It's in the bill. I think. I read it. I just haven't heard anyone else talking about this. So I'm not sure if I'm reading it correctly, but I believe what is probably going to happen. If you've read the bill, if you know anything about this, leave a comment. I believe the president is given a 90-day grace period after January 19th to allow TikTok to remain in business in the United States. What's probably going to happen is the court will hear the appeal next week, I think, and instead of granting TikTok a temporary stay, Trump will assume office the next day on January 20th and give TikTok a 90-day grace period to either sell or win in the court. Either way, the clock is ticking on TikTok. Yeah. Donald Trump on New Year's Day blamed the New Orleans SUV attack on Joe Biden because Joe Biden allowed migrants over the border. It's not true. He's an American. The alleged suspect is an American citizen. But here's the good news. Trump can't get us into a war. He's a bad liar. Bush and Cheney, they lied, but they got their stories straight. They worked on their lies, so enough people believed that Saddam had weapons of mass destruction and was behind 9/11. They were artful. Cheney would give an interview to Judith Miller at the New York Times off the record and say Saddam Hussein has weapons of mass destruction. Judith Miller would be his stenographer and write a story. Sources tell me Saddam Hussein has weapons of mass destruction. It appeared in the New York Times the next day, and then the following day after that, Cheney would go on Meet the Press and says, hey, read the New York Times. They're saying there's weapons of mass destruction. Artful lying, but Trump just lies. He just makes up crap at the spur of the... He's an amateur. And you can't get us into a war doing that. Then again, who knows? Maybe, listen, I didn't think he was going to get reelected. Maybe he can do it. Maybe he can get us into a war. Here is what we know as of this morning about the Bourbon Street SUV attack and the Cybertruck explosion outside the Trump International Hotel in Las Vegas. First, the New Orleans attack, killing 14, with at least 40 others hospitalized. Police say the suspect rammed his truck into a New Year's crowd and then hopped out, opening fire. He was killed in a shootout with police. Right now, there's no reporting on how many of the 14 victims were killed by the truck and how many by bullets. Authorities saying there were no accomplices. The FBI saying at first they believed others were involved, but after examining the suspect's electronic communications devices, they now believe he acted alone. President Joe Biden saying the FBI told him they are 100% convinced the suspect was inspired by ISIS. The FBI says the New Orleans attacker was Shamsuddin Bahar Jabbar, reportedly a 42-year-old male born in Beaumont, Texas. But immediately after the attack, President-elect Donald Trump took to social media calling Jabbar an undocumented immigrant who came in through our southern border. The Pentagon says Jabbar was not only an American citizen, but an Army veteran serving 9 years, one in Afghanistan back in 2009, not seeing any combat while working over there as a computer specialist. The Pentagon confirming Jabbar left the military 4 years ago with the rank of Staff Sergeant. The FBI says Jabbar, before the attack, posted several videos on Facebook pledging his allegiance to ISIS, but they have found no evidence so far that he had any contact with the terrorist organization America is currently fighting in Syria. Jabbar's brother telling reporters Jabbar was raised a Christian but converted to Islam years ago. Reuters reports police found an ISIS flag attached to the Ford F-150 truck that was used in the attack. It was a rental. I'm not sure you're allowed to do that, to attach like bumper stickers to a rental. I don't think they allow that. Sources telling the New York Times that after leaving the army, Jabbar's faith in Islam became more radicalized. Before the attack, Jabbar reportedly moved to a mostly Muslim neighborhood in Houston. The Times says the FBI searched his mosque immediately after the attack. Authorities saying the suspect had been married 3 times, had 3 children, and was experiencing severe financial hardship despite a 6-figure income at one time working as an accountant. He recently started a failing real estate company that left him $40,000 in debt. There are reports that surveillance videos show the suspect 2 hours before the attack planting throughout the immediate area planting coolers with improvised explosive devices inside of them. Bomb specialists described them as primitive and were able to deactivate them immediately, but authorities say no detonating device was found on the suspect or in his truck. Now the Las Vegas attack. Authorities saying Matthew Allen Liebelsberger, a 37-year-old active-duty U.S. Army Special Forces soldier, that's a Green Beret, he was on leave. They say he shot himself in the head 17 seconds before his Tesla Cybertruck sitting outside the Trump International Hotel in Las Vegas exploded, injuring 7 others. Police say the explosion was so intense his body was unrecognizable. The BBC reporting Liebelsberger, stationed in Germany, was in Las Vegas to visit his wife and baby daughter for Christmas. Elon Musk, CEO of Tesla, ordering employees to assist in the investigation. Meanwhile, the FBI finding no material link between the attack in Las Vegas and the one in New Orleans, despite both happening early on New Year's Day. There are some remarkable similarities. Both men rented their vehicles through the rental app Turo. Both were U.S. Army veterans who had been stationed at Fort Bragg in North Carolina. Both spent 2009 serving in Afghanistan, but the Pentagon says there's no indication they knew each other. Oswald shot Kennedy in a warehouse and ran to a theater. Booth shot Lincoln in a theater and ran to a warehouse. I don't know. If you're not a baby boomer, I don't think you'll understand what I'm talking about. Unlike the Bourbon Street attack, authorities now saying the Las Vegas explosion was not linked to ISIS. The FBI and Las Vegas police are now calling the Cybertruck explosion outside the Trump International Hotel, they're now calling it a suicide. Authorities saying he shot himself in the head before the Tesla exploded. That is what we know at this time, unless you're listening to Alex Jones, who still has a show. If you can watch him, he'll tell you anything you want to hear. Or Marjorie Taylor Greene, who immediately after the Bourbon Street attack in New Orleans said, quote unquote, shut the border down. He was an American citizen. Arizona Republican Andy Biggs, he who asked for a pardon on January 6th, immediately after Bourbon Street exploded, Andy Biggs said, this is on Senate Democrats and Joe Biden, unquote. Yeah, but when the next attack happens on Trump's watch, he'll be saying, how dare Democrats politicize a national tragedy? Every time there's a mass shooting and my side calls for an assault weapons ban, guys like this turd, Andy Biggs, always say, this is no time to politicize a tragedy. But without knowing anything about what happened in Bourbon Street, this turd, Andy Biggs, goes, this is on Senate Democrats and Joe Biden. The truth is, and what does the truth really matter? But the truth is the Bourbon Street massacre was allegedly carried out by a United States citizen. But what does that matter? What does that matter? Border crossings, this is the truth, just hit a 4-year low in November. But Trump and the Republicans insist millions are pouring over the border. They're not. The only job migrants are taking away from Americans are the jobs over at ICE. We don't need ICE. That should be the job. If there's one job the migrants should be taking away, it's ICE. Abolish ICE. Speaker Johnson defended Mein Führer, saying Trump is absolutely right. The reason the Bourbon Street terrorist attack happened is because of our weak border. That's what Speaker Johnson said. When asked why Donald Trump was correct in saying it was related to our border, this was on Fox News, Johnson said, because FBI agents are focusing on white nationalists as terrorists. That's how he answered the question. He said Donald Trump was correct in saying the alleged suspect came over the border and was not an American citizen. When asked, why would you say that when all evidence is to the contrary? He says, because the FBI is focusing on white nationalists as terrorists. So you're probably thinking, why doesn't that make sense? Well, where have you been? It's not supposed to make sense. The Bourbon Street suspect was an American citizen who served in Afghanistan. But as you can see from this picture, he wasn't white. So somehow Republicans linked him to the border and the FBI focusing on white nationalists, right? That's the big obsession with the deep, dark state. Prosecuting the January 6ers, the Christian right white nationalists. Well, the Republican Party, as we see, remains the party of white grievance. Despite gains Trump made in November with people of color. The GOP remains the party of white grievance. Look at Trump's cabinet picks. One black man, and that's to head Housing and Urban Development, which traditionally has been what Donald Trump calls a black job. Republicans are the party of white domestic extremists. They will insist Black Lives Matter and Antifa are just as violent as their extremists, and that's simply not true. No statistics back that up. Antifa doesn't exist. Christopher Wray, the outgoing head of the FBI, testified under oath before our Senate that Antifa is an ideology, not a terrorist organization. There is no Antifa. As for Black Lives Matter, totally non-violent. I've been over this countless times. All their marches were peaceful until Kyle Rittenhouse or the police showed up. I've shown you the studies. It was right-wing white Christian nationalists who stormed the Capitol on January 6, 4 years ago. There were no black people who stormed the Capitol on January 6. How do I know that? Because police didn't open fire. The people who stormed the Capitol on January 6, by definition, were Trump supporters, which makes them right-wing extremist Republicans, period. And Trump ran promising to pardon the nonviolent January 6ers. Good luck finding one. Good luck finding a single January 6er behind bars who was nonviolent. Now, Republicans insist only Muslims can be terrorists. Only Muslims can be extremists. And this goes all the way back to the Obama administration when Janet Napolitano was his head of Homeland Security. You might remember Republicans back in 2009, that was Obama's first year in office, Republicans succeeded in suppressing a Homeland Security report revealing that the threat of domestic terrorism wasn't coming from Muslims, wasn't coming from domestic Muslims or foreign Muslims. The real threat of terrorism was from white supremacists with guns. Domestic white supremacists with guns. In Janet Napolitano's Homeland Security report, she included disenchanted white veterans coming home from Afghanistan and Iraq. She said in the report, they can become easily radicalized. And Republicans went into hysterics. You're insulting our constituents. You're slandering our constituents. White people doing the slaughtering with guns, that's not the fault of guns, they would maintain. It's not the fault of white people. What is it? Oh, it's a mental health issue. We have a mental health issue in this country. That's what Republicans say. But the mental health issue in this country is not so bad that they would be willing to figure out a way to make mental health treatment free or affordable. You know, the Republicans would never suggest outlawing private equity firms like Bain Capital, like Mitt Romney's Bain Capital, which invests in mental health facilities, drug rehabilitation facilities, for-profit drug rehabilitation facilities that make mental health treatment in this country unaffordable for about 80% of this country. House Republican leader at the time, John Boehner, this was in 2009, who would become Speaker in about 2 years. He became Speaker in 2011. He took umbrage in 2009 with Homeland Security Director Janet Napolitano's report. He said it was out of line and she needs to apologize to white people, to gun owners, and especially our veterans. You need to apologize for suggesting they play any role in domestic terrorism. I don't care what the facts are. You made us feel bad. Janet Napolitano, in 2009, head of Homeland Security for Barack Obama, apologized. And that report was kept under wraps for several years. Because in America, white men shooting up a church because they hate black people, white men shooting up a temple because they hate Jews, white men shooting up a mosque or blowing up an abortion clinic, that can't be domestic terrorism. Why? Why can't it be domestic terrorism? Because white people did it and they used guns. Or when they use explosives, the way Timothy McVeigh did, the National Rifle Association gets Republicans to block legislation that would have ordered manufacturers of fertilizer, the explosive used by McVeigh to blow up that building, that federal building in Oklahoma. There was legislation ordering manufacturers of fertilizer to place chemical markers in their product so after an explosion, it would be easier for the FBI to trace where this bomb-making material was purchased. Fertilizer is used to make bombs. Well, the Republicans blocked that because that would impinge upon someone's Second Amendment rights. Fertilizer. They're protecting our right to buy fertilizer, our right to buy it anonymously, do what we want with it, and not have our purchase traced. Fertilizer. And what could be more appropriate considering how completely full of shit the Republicans are? Of course they're protecting fertilizer. The Senate Homeland Security Committee held hearings on domestic extremism back in June of 2022. I rewatched these hearings yesterday on C-SPAN. I really recommend you watch these. Now, the thing about Senate hearings is people testify under oath. You can end up going to prison if you lie. This is why Steve Bannon didn't want to testify. He ended up going to prison because he didn't want to testify. Peter Navarro went to prison because he didn't want to. Those two guys didn't want to testify before the January 6th committee because when you're sworn in, you got to tell the truth. I'm telling you, C-SPAN. Watch C-SPAN. According to testimony, I mean, C-SPAN, a Senate here. Imagine if Meet the Press began with Mike Johnson or Donald Trump being sworn in under oath. You get different answers. Ever watch a Trump deposition? Meet the Press is garbage compared to a Senate or a congressional hearing because they're testifying under oath. According to testimony heard that day, since 2012, white supremacists have committed more than half of all the extremist murders in this country. By comparison, left-wing extremists committed fewer than 4% of the murders in this country, murders that are defined as extremist murders. Christopher Wray, the outgoing head of the FBI, has testified that the biggest threat of domestic terrorism comes from white supremacists. And Republicans always become enraged when they hear that, when they see the statistics, because that's who they are. And it's one of the reasons Donald Trump was going to fire Christopher Wray, but Wray quit instead. This was really amazing. This was testimony from Michael German. He is a fellow with the Brennan Center. He used to be a special agent with the FBI. He worked to uncover white supremacists and militia groups, white militia groups, who are slowly infiltrating our military and other parts of our government. That was his portfolio to study. When he was with the FBI, he was studying, going undercover, exposing white supremacists and militia groups. Pete Hegseth, some people believe, is part of a white supremacist militia group. That's why he, even though he was in the National Guard, they told him he could not stand on Inauguration Day to protect Joe Biden. He couldn't be trusted because of this gigantic tattoo that allegedly shows an alliance with a neo-Nazi group. So Mr. German testified under oath before that Senate Committee on Homeland Security on June 9th, 2022. This was about domestic extremism in America. And German, former FBI agent, warned that law enforcement, the police and the FBI, law enforcement has sympathy for white supremacists. No sympathy for Black Lives Matter protesters, but they have sympathy for white supremacists. It's why, he didn't say this, but it's why after killing black people in Charleston, South Carolina's Emmanuel African Methodist Episcopal Church, Dylan Roof was captured by police and immediately given hamburgers from Burger King. He said, I want a burger from Burger King, and they got him one. Why? Because the police chief later said the kid was having a bad day. White. Well, German, during his testimony, warned that the FBI resists, there's institutional resistance at the FBI to putting white supremacists on terrorist watch lists. Doesn't sit well with a lot of agents. And he warned in his testimony there's not sufficient oversight protecting black citizens from racist police officers. Since 2020, the FBI and the Department of Homeland Security are required by law to issue annual reports on domestic extremism. Who's responsible for it? The agencies, however, have found it politically expedient to delay issuing these reports in order to avoid pushback from angry Republicans who don't want to hear the truth. You know, you couldn't study gun deaths in this country until about 8 years ago. The Republicans and the NRA said they banned executive orders and legislation requiring the FBI and the Department of Justice to have a running count of the number of Americans who are killed by guns and the number of Americans who are killed by police officers. It was banned by the Republicans. The Washington Post had to do it first. The Washington Post, Jeff Bezos, horrible man, bought the Washington Post, and they began to keep track of all the Americans killed by gun violence because Republicans blocked the FBI and the Department of Justice from keeping records on that because the NRA doesn't like the truth. Testimony was heard that day about the role the Great Replacement Theory plays in domestic terrorism. The Great Replacement Theory, the idea that hordes of brown people are pouring over the border to replace us. You heard Trump and Elon Musk in the lead up to November 5th talking about hordes, busloads of millions and millions of brown people or migrants coming over the southern border to vote for Kamala Harris to elect Democrats who will subjugate white people. This is the theory that Trump ran on. And it's the theory that Elon Musk, a product of South Africa's apartheid, it's a theory Elon Musk is promulgating not just here in the United States, but in countries like Germany, Italy, Great Britain, and who knows where else. According to the testimony, the Great Replacement Theory is transnational. One of the leading proponents is Viktor Orban, the authoritarian ruler of Hungary, who spoke at CPAC. He's beloved by Republicans. He's a good friend of the Trumps. Here he is with Don Jr. Don Jr. last year visited Viktor Orban in Hungary, as did Tucker Carlson repeatedly. Viktor Orban constantly visiting Mar-a-Lago. Steve Bannon, big friend of Viktor Orban, and of course Tucker Carlson. And Vladimir Putin. You know, they're going to throw, if the EU might end up throwing Viktor Orban out, Hungary out, because of his affinity to the other promoter of the Great Replacement Theory, Vladimir Putin. You know, secretly, the Putin wing of the Republican Party, they see Putin as the white Christian savior who is protecting Russia from the Muslim and Asian hordes. They see Putin as a good white Christian. Elon Musk, the wealthiest man in the world, is said right now to be spending $100 million in Great Britain to get rid of the Labour government and replace it with Reform UK, the anti-immigrant Muslim party that was behind Brexit. Last week, he penned an opinion piece in a German newspaper defending that country's neo-Nazi party called Alternative for Germany. It's the Alternative for Germany party. It's also known as AfD. Germany's chancellor is left of center. Musk, who's not a citizen of Germany, called on the chancellor to resign yesterday. Musk says only AfD can save Germany, and he said it's culture. It's culture. AfD is not only opposed to immigration, but has called for rounding up Muslims and sending them back to their country of origin. Yesterday, J.D. Vance defended Elon Musk's piece in that German newspaper, getting it all wrong, saying where AfD is popular in Germany, that's where Hitler had the hardest time winning over converts. And I believe it was the German ambassador to America or the UN who on Twitter said to J.D. Vance, with all due respect, you don't know what you're talking about. Like like Elon Musk says, how can the AfD be Nazis if their leader is a lesbian? What are you, an effing moron? He can't be. Hitler wasn't gay, so he hated gays. And if the leader of AFD is a lesbian, that means she can't be like Hitler. Right. And that means Lindsey Graham can't be a Republican because they hate gay people, allegedly. I don't know. It's what I've heard me say. Musk has created a fracture in MAGA world by urging Donald Trump to support H1, did my bleeding stop? Yes, H1B visas for foreign workers to be employed by Silicon Valley. H1B visas are for people who have special skills that Silicon Valley needs. And MAGA supporters were appalled that the anti-immigrant president, Donald Trump, is going to listen to Elon Musk and invite more foreigners to take work away from American citizens. Elon Musk on Twitter responded favorably. There was a big dust-up on Twitter over this. Elon Musk responded favorably to a comment calling Americans, quote unquote, too retarded to do the tech work that needs to be done. And Vivek Ramaswamy said, we need these H-1B visas because Americans don't know how to raise their children. They hate us. They hate us. They hate us. Steve Bannon, he of the Great Replacement Theory, best friends with Viktor Orban, a white Christian nationalist. He's fresh out of prison. He immediately attacked Musk and the H-1B visas. He is an isolationist to the core. And he went on his podcast going after Elon Musk. He said, quote, that he's grateful. He said, I'm grateful that Elon Musk has found his way into MAGA. And he said, I love converts, but converts need to sit in the back and study for years and years to make sure they understand the faith and understand the nuances of the faith and understand how you can internalize the faith. Bannon is lecturing Elon Musk to shut up. He said, don't come up and go to the pulpit in your first week here and start lecturing people about the way things are going to be. This was over the H-1B visas. And then Steve Bannon warned Elon Musk, if you don't stop dictating immigration policy, I'm going to rip your face off. Isn't that nice? By the way, I think I have a picture. Yeah, this is a picture of Elon Musk that day with his face ripped off. That is, I think he looks better with his face ripped off. Jesus, these people. By the way, we are now hearing, how are we doing on time here? Okay. We are now hearing that Musk spent $300 million last year to get Donald Trump elected. Now, first, we were told it was $100 million. Then we heard $200 million. Now it's $300 million. It's why he won't leave Mar-a-Lago. He wants his money's worth. He can't get security clearance. The only way Trump is going to get away from this guy is by moving into the White House because of the drug use. He can't get security clearance to actually be inside the White House. Musk can't, but he's launching our satellites and working for NASA. He's working for the Pentagon, but because of Israel and our Pentagon are concerned about the lack of transparency when it comes to Elon Musk's friends. And so Elon, between now and January 20th, Elon Musk is not leaving Mar-a-Lago. He's getting his money's worth. He's holding meetings with Neil Farage, the head of Reform UK. He's coming to. He's using Mar-a-Lago as his office because, it's a great place. The bed bugs are flown in fresh every morning. Look at that. Look how sound. This is a photograph of Marjorie Taylor Greene sleeping. Look how soundly she sleeps when she has a Mar-a-Lago stayover. Those are fresh bed bugs. This is the mop-up. I think that might have been Photoshop. Not sure. I don't know. Looked like Photoshop. This is the mop-up for January 3rd, 2025. I'm David Feldman in New York City. Thank you so much for finding me. Please hit the like button. So that's how I can remain in your feed. There's a lot of other shows out there, so even if you subscribe to my channel, I may not show up in your feed, but if you hit the like button, then blah, 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 blah. Please subscribe. What else? I read all your comments. Please do that. And brush your teeth, comb your hair, change your socks, and don't wash your underwear in the sink. Don't come visit me and wash your underwear and your socks in my kitchen sink where I prepare my salads and my beans, where my children come and play in my sink. Sorry, I was talking to Hyman Roth there for a second. Don't wash your socks. Don't come visit me for the holidays and wash your socks and underwear in my kitchen sink. I don't use seamless, but that's it. I can't even walk into my kitchen now. Friends, what good are people? What good are they? Who would do that? And subscribe to my newsletter. Subscribe to my, I'm insane. I'm going insane. I really am. Puerto Rico was plunged into complete darkness on New Year's Eve with practically the entire island without any power. The good news is at the time, comedian Tony Hinchcliffe was vacationing there in Puerto Rico. So there was a bright spot. In fact, it was so bright, Puerto Ricans were reading off of the fact that Tony Hinchcliffe was vacationing in Puerto Rico when the lights went out. About 15% of the island is still without power. President Biden spoke with the governor and his energy secretary to get all the electricity restored in Puerto Rico before Trump becomes president and shuts it off again. Joe Biden is reportedly telling his closest advisors he still thinks he could have won. Apparently, Puerto Ricans aren't the only ones in the dark. What do you think? Leave a comment. Could he have won? Alternative history? Well, let me just say something. I'm holding my worst case scenario mug. Okay, I own how wrong I was about Kamala Harris winning. But I did tell you, I did. If you go back, I told you Biden should have ignored everyone and stayed in the race. I said, if he stays in, Americans will have a choice between insanity and senility. And I said Americans will choose senility over insanity. And I know the polls eventually showed him sinking, but not after that debate. If you go back, he actually picked up independent voters after the debate. When did Biden sink in the polls? When the Democrats turned on him. When George Clooney wrote in the New York Times that Joe Biden is senile. When Nancy Pelosi started working the levers of power inside the Democratic Party to throw Joe Biden to the curb. That's when the polls began to sink. When everybody in the Democratic Party, not everybody, but when the New York Times, when people started calling for him to step down, that's when the polling began to go down. So if you go back and listen to my shows back then, I said, yes, Joe Biden is unpopular. But Harris, I said, is even more unpopular. I showed you poll after poll before Joe Biden dropped out. Poll after poll revealing that Biden may be disliked, but Harris was even more disliked. But then he dropped out, and because I'm a faithful Democrat, I got on board with Harris. I said, I was wrong. He should have dropped out. Harris is fantastic. I love the enthusiasm. I love the polling that showed her winning. But when you look at the original polling, she was more unpopular than Joe Biden. And on November 5th, she ended up getting 6 million fewer votes than Joe Biden got in 2020. So, alternative history, woulda, shoulda, coulda. I'm holding my worst case scenario mug. I said Harris is going to get to 270. What do I know? I'm just... what do I know? We are just 17 days away. This is interesting stuff. We are just 17. How are we doing on time? We are 17 days away from Donald Trump resoiling the Oval Office. Susie Wiles is Trump's incoming chief of staff. She's also Pat Summerall's daughter. The CBS broadcasting great, football great, Pat Summerall. This is her daughter, his daughter. All right, Pat Summerall. It's Pat. We don't know. Was Pat a he or Pat? I'm pretty sure Pat Summerall was a he. Send your letters in and complain. I don't know where I am. Susie Wiles, Trump's incoming chief of staff, has ordered all cabinet nominees to stay off social media as their confirmation hearings begin. Pete Hegseth's nomination for defense chief begins a week before Trump is sworn in. Susie Wiles, I've been waiting for this the entire show. This makes me so... Susie Wiles told all the nominees, stay off social media, and if you have something to say, run it through Trump's White House communications director and male underwear model, Stephen Chung. This is Stephen Chung. We're going to be seeing a lot of Stephen Chung this year, especially since there's so much to see. So, you know I'm a big fan of Stephen Chung, Trump's White House communications director. Many of you ask, how does Stephen Chung, how does he look so happy and relaxed all the time? Well, I know Stephen, and it's his secret. It's the Stephen Chung stew. Every Sunday, no matter what is going on, it's his Sabbath. Stephen Chung will sit in a large vat. That's Stephen Chung sitting in a large vat of sausages, onions, garlic, potatoes, ham, gravy, tomatoes, and ground beef. And then he turns up the heat and he soaks himself in his Stephen Chung stew. See, his body, this is why he looks so good. His body absorbs all the essential nutrients, and at the same time, his body releases into that stew all the robust flavor that makes guests constantly coming back for seconds. It's delicious. Oh, wait, I'm being told Stephen Chung wants to say something. This is very exciting. Stephen Chung, I didn't mean to bother you while you were stewing. Go ahead.
Would you like to see bubbles? I can make bubbles. Would you like me to make some bubbles for you? I know you want bubbles. Here. Wait. Those aren't bubbles. Better you look away. I just ruined an entire stew.
All right, now, I don't know what's going on here. I don't know if that was Stephen Chung or not. From what I can tell, it wasn't AI, that I can tell you. It looks like there was some Photoshop involved. It looks like his head, through Photoshop, was placed on top of somebody else's body, and then they Photoshopped in some kind of stew. It looks like some kind of lip sync software, maybe from Adobe Animate. Looks like the kind of lip syncing that you could, if you were studying animation, it looks like probably done through Adobe as an alpha channel and then superimposed on top of the face in After Effects. The voice, I don't know. From what I can tell, I mean, I'm trying to teach you how to be able to tell if something is AI or has been altered. To me, it sounds, that voice, it doesn't sound like Stephen Chung. It sounds like my neighbor who has been doing books on tape for 20 years. It sounds like my neighbor, it sounds like my neighbor came over and recorded that. And then I or somebody ran it through Adobe Animate for the lip syncing and then put it out as an alpha channel onto the Photoshop face, ran it through After Effects. Or it's real. I don't know. But I'm trying to teach you how to, because it's a new world with the AI. I don't know what's real and what's not anymore. So I'm trying. Well, you know how most presidents on Christmas or New Year's, they go to the local soup kitchen to feed the homeless? Not Donald Trump. He invites the homeless to come to Mar-a-Lago and feed not just him, but his guests. Look at that. See, anybody could go to a soup kitchen and feed the homeless. Donald Trump brings the homeless over to Mar-a-Lago and he has them feed him. And there's Mike Johnson and is that Elon Musk? Look how it's going to cry. This is the season. There's Tom Homan, the border czar, waiting to be served. I think that is the specialty over at Mar-a-Lago, boiled rat at Mar-a-Lago. And there's Elon. This makes me want to cry. There's Elon Musk being served by homeless children. This is just, there's Lindsey Graham. Look at that. And it's mouth-watering rat. You cannot get rat. So tender. The way they cook it at Mar. There's Lindsey Graham. It makes me want to cry. Trump allowing homeless people to work for free at Mar-a-Lago serving. Anybody can go to a soup kitchen and feed the homeless, but Donald Trump lets the homeless feed him. Lindsey Graham, look at it. Look at his mouth. His mouth is watering. By the way, Lindsey Graham has been such a loyal supplicant that Donald Trump gave Lindsay his own room, his own suite in Mar-a-Lago. That's the Lindsey Graham suite in Mar-a-Lago. There's Donald Trump popping his head in to see if Lindsay's got enough fresh towels. That's Lindsay just relaxing, clearing his head at Mar-a-Lago. There's Pete Hegseth, our new defense secretary. What else do we got? There's Speaker Mike Johnson waiting to be served. Look at those cockroaches. Those are from, if I'm not mistaken, I believe Ecuador. They're flown in fresh. The cockroaches are flown in fresh every day from Ecuador. I spent New Year's Eve at Times Square with Pizza Rat and his girlfriend, and then they took me back to their place for some pizza. Okay. That is, I believe that's AI, actually. I believe that's AI. You can type that in. I think that's AI through Adobe. Okay. This is real, I think. Yeah, that's Liz Cheney. That's real. Liz Cheney on Thursday received the Presidential Citizens Medal from Joe Biden.
Elizabeth L. Cheney for putting the American people over party.
Yeah. Wow. Thanks, Mr. President. Wow, thank you. But you know what I could really use, old man, is an effing pardon. But thanks, a Presidential Citizens Medal. Maybe I can trade it for chocolate and soap inside Gitmo after Donald Trump locks me up. Wow, a medal. Thank you so much. That's what I need. I actually gave her a standing ovation. And had it lasted 15 more seconds, she would have gotten the pardon. We're so sorry. You don't get the encore point or the pardon. It didn't last long enough. Ukraine began the new year by stopping the flow of Russian gas to Europe. See, Russia had been running a natural gas line all the way from Siberia through Ukraine and then on to Europe. Zelensky decided to turn it off on January 1st. Why? What's the rush? It's only been 3 years since Putin invaded. Why would you turn off a great source of profit for your invader? The Institute for the Study of War and the nation of Ukraine have two separate studies, but they're similar. The Study of War, Institute for the Study of War in Ukraine, are estimating that close to 500,000 Russians have died last year fighting in Ukraine. I don't know, is it going well? Leave a comment. Is it going well for Russia? I don't know. During his annual New Year's address, Russian leader Vladimir Putin told his people, quote, "Everything will be fine." Yes, for you. It is estimated that close to 4,000 Russian soldiers were killed or wounded in Ukraine since New Year's. I don't know. Didn't Syria I don't know. The Palestinian Authority runs the West Bank and at one time was considered independent of Israel. It is believed that Netanyahu's endgame in Gaza is to defeat Hamas, good luck with that, and install the Palestinian Authority as the ruling governing party of Gaza, the same way they are the ruling party, the governing power in the West Bank. Well, yesterday the Palestinian Authority banned Al Jazeera from broadcasting inside the West Bank. The Palestinian Authority accused Al Jazeera of fostering division among Palestinians living inside the West Bank. The Palestinian Central Bureau of Statistics reported that the population inside Gaza decreased 6% in 2024, with more than 100,000 Palestinians leaving Gaza and an additional 45,553 killed. There are now reports of 6 babies in Gaza dying from hypothermia as winter aid and medical provisions remain in short supply. The U.S. and Israel continue to pound Houthis in Yemen after the Houthis, those are the Iranian-backed fighters, they fired more missiles into Israel. France says it fired missiles into Syria in attack against ISIS fighters. This is the mop-up for January 3rd, 2025. I'm David Feldman in New York. Please hit the like button and share this episode, please. Please. The only reason I have an audience is because of my audience. This is a grassroots, only Robert Smigel and Sam Cedar. That's it. Those are the only people. I'm not part of some podcast industrial complex. The only reason I have an audience is because people share this. So please, if you can, share this episode. Scientists warn artificial intelligence could be replaced by AI in less than a decade. I typed into my AI machine, write me a joke, and this is what it came up with. Not bad. All right, I'll be honest with you. I'm not real. This is all artificial. It truly is the existential threat of our time. I'll be talking about AI. Well, a new poll shows a majority of Americans say celebrities should stop talking about politics. Many people say one of the reasons that Kamala Harris did so poorly is she surrounded herself with celebrities and nobody cares what celebrities are thinking when it comes to politics. But I love celebrities. I hang on their every word. I love celebrities like this guy, actor Justin Baldoni. Do you know who Justin Baldoni is? Look at him. He's so handsome. He starred in that movie last year with Blake Lively. And, she's saying he did some horrible things to her. But look at that face. Ooh, you just want to pinch that. Look at Justin Baldoni. Does that look like the face of a monster? Oh, wait, I'm being told that's not Justin Baldoni. That is the face of Luigi Mangione. I apologize. There we go. That's Justin Baldoni. Okay, now I believe Blake Lively. That is the face of a monster. Just going by the way he looks, that I believe Blake Lively. Yeah, definitely a monster. I better be careful what I say about Justin Baldoni. He is suing the New York Times for $250 million, accusing the paper of libel after the New York Times broke the story about Blake Lively's allegations against him. Asked why he's suing the New York Times, Baldoni told reporters, "My butt hurts." That never gets tired. Well, I don't know if you've been following the story, but more than half of all Americans are either suing or being sued by actor Justin Baldoni. This is a big story that I know nothing about. 99% of all Americans say they have no idea who Justin Baldoni is, or Baldoni, but they all agree on wanting to kick him in the teeth. I think we can all agree. Just one look, right? I mean, how could you not want to kick that guy in the teeth? Justin Baldoni. Right, Justin? My butt hurts. Yes. Okay, we're going to wrap it up. I don't know who he is. I didn't see the movie. I don't even know who Blake Lively is. I saw the movie. I don't remember it. But just, first of all, with a head like that, with hair like that, your last name should not be Baldoni. You're kind of rubbing it in for people who are follically challenged, as hacks say. I hate people say, I'm follically challenged. You're not follically challenged. You should have been aborted for being bald. That's all right. I haven't done the show in a week. Did I mention I cut myself shaving? My hands were shaking. I actually get nervous doing this. I'm worried that it might actually go right. Then what do? Donald Trump will be... Oh, this is exciting. And then I'm going to wrap it up. This is a new thing. I'm using AI to predict the future. This is very exciting. You're going to really hate this. Donald Trump is going to be sworn in on January 20th, but thanks to my exclusive AI forecaster, I am now able to show you what exactly we can expect Donald Trump to be saying in exactly 20 days, okay? Or 21 days, or on day one of his presidency. This is my patented, let me go large here. This is very... You see, it's trademarked. It's the AI forecaster. This is using state-of-the-art AI stuff, and we feed in all this information, and then it spits out an actual video of Donald Trump in the future. This is Donald Trump in the future. This is Donald Trump, his first day in office, and a national address. Here we go. This is very exciting. This is my AI forecaster.
I have ordered ICE to begin rounding up the ones and the twos. We're going to start with the ugly ones. I'm not being unreasonable, and I'm not a monster. We get rid of the ones and the twos and then work our way up to the fours and the fives. If we do that, then by next year, I think we're going to have not only fewer but hotter illegals.
Okay, that's my trademarked and patented AI forecaster. Now, this is what we're saying 250 days away, according to my AI forecaster. Here we go. This is 250 days away. Very exciting.
So in conclusion, you can still celebrate Martin Luther King's birthday. We're not getting rid of it. But it's all about choice. If you'd rather celebrate Rosie O'Donnell is a fat pig day instead, you can do that, or you can do what I'm planning on, and that is celebrating both. There's no reason you can't spend the holiday honoring both. The memory of Dr. King and Rosie's inability to control that insatiable appetite of hers is really quite sad, the way she eats. But again, it's your choice. We're not subtracting, we're adding to Martin Luther King Day. You'd want that.
So apparently the AI forecaster is telling us that in 250 days, Donald Trump is not getting rid of Martin Luther King Day. He's just adding on to Martin Luther King Day. Rosie O'Donnell is a fat pig day. And you can celebrate both or one or the other. It's all about choice. This is the AI. Hey, don't blame me. This is artificial intelligence. Well, finally, this is a year from now. This is what AI, my AI forecaster, is telling us we can expect exactly 1 year from this morning. This will be Donald Trump speaking, I believe, at Mar-a-Lago. Here we go.
So apparently this one you catch from getting to third base with a female monkey and then licking your index finger before washing it. Bobby Kennedy and Dr. Oz both said we should call it the China virus, but I told them that was already taken. Right now we're workshopping a few names. I like calling it Rachel Maddow syndrome. It has a nice ring to it, Rachel Maddow syndrome, because it's more of a syndrome than a virus, a syndrome. So anyway, the important thing to remember is that you have to wash your index finger after getting to third base with an ape or you'll die.
Okay, so a year from now, we'll have a new virus or a syndrome, and we'll have to wash our index finger if we get to third base with an ape. Hey, it's AI. It's very humbling to see the technology unfold right before us. The future. The future has arrived. I'm David Feldman reminding you to stay. Oh, so I want to show this one. I'm David Feldman reminding you to stay strong and protect the weak. Turns out, I've done, this is so stupid. Donald Trump had a brother. No, he didn't have a brother. No, Abraham Lincoln had a brother. I don't remember. What was it again? Anyway, we colorized the Matthew Brady daguerreotype, and it's Dishonest Abe. And somehow it's Donald Trump. I know. There's the Trump memorial. That was the all right. All right. I'm done. I shouldn't have come. I should have stayed on vacation. I took a week off. I should have stayed gone. I think people would have been happier. Thank you for listening to me. It's really good to be back. And for me, not for my listeners, but it's good for me. How can you wash socks and underwear in somebody's kitchen sink? Like, you're walking around New York all day. I think I'm just going to quarantine I'm never going to step foot in my kitchen again. I can't look at that sink. Thank you to the moderators, Mila and Bob, for keeping the conversation civil in the chat room. I read all your comments. Check out the garbage over at shopdavidfeldman.com. Hit the like button. What else? Tip Uber drivers with cash. That way, you're pretty sure they're going to get all of it. If you have access to cash, when you're dealing with service workers, give them cash. That's always good. Floss. It's always good to floss. And don't have guests. Don't be generous. Anybody who wants to come to New York and then stay with you, don't allow it. Don't move to New York. First thing, don't move to New York. And then if you do move to New York, you're not running a youth hostel. Unless Luigi Mangione wants to stay with you, in which case, bad guy. Bad guy. Very bad guy. All right, I'm going to go. Thank you. Leave a comment. No show tomorrow. I'm going to try to get back to a normal schedule after the weekend. I may do a show. Depends on how today shakes out with the speak. I don't know. I've had a week off, and I cut myself shaving. Thank you for listening to this garbage. Thank you.